Welcome to Business Watch. I'm Chief Robert Osecki of the Brunswick Hills Police Department, and this month we have a special presentation, Street Drugs in Medina County. My guest today and presenter is Detective James Bigam, Investigative Specialist with the Medina City Police Department. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Thank you, Chief.
I'll turn it over to you at this time.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We had asked for this opportunity to try and get a message out to the public of Medina County, what types of drugs we are seeing on the streets throughout the entire county. I think after today's presentation, you'll get a good idea of the type of drugs as well as the paraphernalia or items used to ingest those drugs look like, and have a better idea and knowledge of how to deal with the drug situation that you may see in your own home or you may see in your own workplace. Today we'll start out with marijuana, which is naturally very common. Marijuana is coming back very strong in Medina County. We see it in the workplace, we see it in our schools today, and of course out on the street when officers are making arrests. Marijuana, right now what we're seeing is sinsemilla, which is a female plant. There are very little seeds to it. However, in the 60s and 70s, most of the cannabis or marijuana was from the male plant, which did have a lot of seeds. And these are examples of the marijuana and of the seeds that one may see in the workplace, you may see in a school, or you may see in your home, or even in someone's vehicle. And one of the reasons to know this is to give you the signs of whether someone is on drugs or not, so that you can help them in one way or another. The other forms of marijuana that we are seeing on the street as well that is coming back will be hash, and here's an example of hash that we received through an envelope during a search warrant in Medina County. And all of these items are smoked through a smoking pipe. We're used to seeing the standard smoking pipes during our arrest or in someone's vehicle or in their home. However, one cannot just think of those pipes any longer. I mean, we have the creative pipe from some woodsman making their own pipe. The thing to remember about a marijuana pipe is as long as it has a smoking chamber and has a way to vent and burn the cannabis, it can be used as a smoking pipe. So we found pipes that are standard. We found pipes that are soda pop cans, or the standard smoking device. Actually, in some of the workplaces, we found marijuana where it is actually smoked through different types of masks. We actually have an individual that is very creative in making his own pipe just out of a toilet paper dispenser. Again, we want to show you these things so that you can become more informed about the types of paraphernalia that are out there when these drugs are being ingested. Marijuana is also smoked in what we call a primo, or a blunt. In a blunt form, a cigar is usually used and it's hollowed out, and the individual will then fill it with marijuana, and that's how they'll smoke the blunt. A primo is filled with crack cocaine. They will put a rock or a piece of rock or powder cocaine inside of the cigar and then smoke it as one would smoke a cigar. So those are two forms of a way that a cigar or even a cigarette, but preferably a cigar, would be used in ingesting marijuana. And it could be any form. I mean, an individual that's smoking it is not looking for a particular brand or anything. It could be black and mild, brown and tan. These are grenadiers, and then a standard large cigar. Many individuals will use the cigar method because it does two things. One, it disguises what they are doing because it appears as though they're smoking a cigar. And secondly, they'll use it to help mask the smell of a cigar. However, it is not foolproof, and law enforcement is wise to this, and we are having success in making seizures of individuals smoking by the primo method. The other big thing that I want to talk to you about, other than marijuana and the way marijuana comes to us, but is crack cocaine. Now, crack cocaine has been around, or excuse me, cocaine has been around for many years and has usually been the sign of the rich. And that could be in any kind of powdered form. Now, that is ingested by using a mirror or a mirror and a straw. And that is where an individual, for instance, I have a kit here for cocaine, where an individual would take the powdered cocaine and put it on the mirror and then draw lines and section it out with a razor blade, and that's to refine the lumps and get the powder effect, and then measure out the lines for snorting, and then use this kit, use this straw for snorting, or use a small Coke spoon for snorting approximately a quarter of a gram in each nostril. And this is from the 60s and 70s, this particular pack. I'm bringing this to you today because we are seeing resurgence of this, and we are actually seeing everything coming full cycle. Everything that was in the 60s and 70s and even in the late 80s is now coming back, and it's coming back with a vengeance. Our problem in Medina County is that individuals today are learning ways to refine these types of drugs or to mix these types of drugs. Or in fact, drugs that were originally injectable are now snortable. And we see more and more individuals snorting just about any type of product, unfortunately, throughout Medina County, whether it be cocaine or whether it be Talwin or Rohypnol or any other type of drug. We've had reports of actual snorting of these drugs as well. In powdered cocaine, this would be the standard way of ingesting powdered cocaine, and this would be a standard kit that one would look for. Now, we had a change in powdered cocaine to crack cocaine approximately 3 to 4 years ago. And what happens is that an individual would purchase the powdered cocaine, and then that would be mixed with some products to bulk that up, and then it would go through a process that is used it could be used on a stove as far as cooking, or we are now having them even use microwaves to cook down powdered cocaine and its solution mixed with bicarbonates and other chemicals to make crack cocaine. When that's all dried out, that's dried out into a rock form. I'm going to put the rock on this leather so it's a little easier seeing. The rock cocaine is what is purchased on the street. 3 of those rocks is a normal purchase for $50. This, however, would be what we call a Detroit boulder. This is a larger rock of crack cocaine, and the way that is ingested would be through a straw. Now, the straw of choice is any antenna, usually from a car, from a radio, or from a television, any types of collapsible antenna. When crack cocaine first came out, individuals were using glass tubes for that. And that became less popular as they had to find a way to carry the glass tube, and of course it would break or crack, and they would end up with injury and other germs from being cut. So now they've really gone to an antenna. It's easily concealed, it is easily tossed should law enforcement come in contact with the individual. And unfortunately, these are shared. When an individual smokes crack cocaine, it's rare that they do it themselves. There's usually a group with them. So even if we have someone that's just a marijuana user, and we have someone taking the attitude that, you know, my son or my daughter or the youth themselves say, well, I'm just a marijuana smoker. Well, if they're at a party and they have a mix of individuals that are doing different things, they'll tend to share those different things. So you could have a child or an adult that is on crack cocaine that, in fact, at a party will try these other drugs. And that's what we're seeing around Medina County, as well as the youth trying drugs today that are happening across the country, which would be Rohypnol or ketamines, which we'll talk about shortly. Crack cocaine is smoked in this pipe in one main way. We have a product by the name of Chore Boy, and I don't pick on Chore Boy by brand name, I pick on it because it's called Chore Boy on the street as well, and that happens to be the product name. Chore Boy is a copper scouring pad. Now, an individual in using Chore Boy uses the Chore Boy as a filtering device in this pipe. What an individual would do is take the Chore Boy, tear off a section of Chore Boy. I have an extra pad here. They would tear off a piece of Chore Boy, roll it into a little ball. Now they have this little copper ball and they drop it down into this antenna. They would then use what's called a push rod, which is merely made out of a coat hanger or any type of wire. And they would use the push rod to push that copper Chore Boy down into the tube, and then they would take this piece of crack cocaine or rock cocaine, this little rock, and tap it down into the tube. Then they would use any kind of a lighter. It could be a small lighter that I have here, or for instance we have a Super Cub Cadet lighter, which is also used. The object naturally is to light up the end of this tube get that rock to start heating up very rapidly, which will create a smoke, and that smoke is then ingested by the individual, smoking like a standard pipe. That is crack cocaine. These are the devices that are used for crack cocaine, and this is the paraphernalia in order to do crack cocaine. We bring that to you because we feel it's important for you as parents and for young adults, number one, to be able to identify what is being used on the street. If an individual is telling you that they're not on drugs, whether they're a friend of yours or not, or a working associate, if they're telling you they're not on drugs and you start to see these things around, that definitely is not true. They are on drugs, and they are using, for instance, the crack cocaine or the other paraphernalia, which was marijuana. We may find, for instance, in law enforcement, we'll find fibers of chorboy on the floorboard of cars or in the carpeting in cars and things like that. No one is cooking in the car. They're not scrubbing their pots and pans. I don't think mom and dad gave them any pots and pans to scrub while they were in their car or while they were in their bedroom. So if we see any of this sort of thing going on, those are all signals that that person is using drugs. And in specific, chorboy is used as a filter for crack cocaine. So that would be the drug most likely that they would be using. Please remember during this talk that when we talk about these things, think about things happening in a cluster. We're not saying that because a person does any one of these things that they are a doper or a drug user or experimenting in drugs. What we're saying is that building a cluster, when you're starting to see these things group up, then you have a problem. Too much today in law enforcement, we hear from parents, not my son or not my daughter, or even from the youth themselves, not me, I'm holding it for a friend, etc. The truth is that they probably are using the drug. We need to identify that, and then we have to think of creative ways to try and eradicate that somehow. Try and get them to stop the use of the illegal drug. The other thing that no one thinks about because they're ingesting the drug is the fact of all the other disease that we can get from it, whether it be AIDS or any of the other types of germ-carrying or airborne pathogens that we may get off of this paraphernalia. Remember, these pipes are being passed around. Each individual has their lips on it. They're smoking it. We don't know if this person's been bleeding or not when ingesting these drugs. We don't know what their condition is. So those are all things that we have to think about when using these drugs. As you look around the table, you can see many of the street drugs to my left and to the bottom here where the chorboy is and the pipes, etc., that are used basically on the streets with powdered cocaine and associated with cocaine. One drug that I don't want to forget about that we have to talk about, and that is alcohol. Alcohol is being used more today than ever before, and it seems to be ignored more often than not. Alcohol is going to lower the inhibitions of the individual if they're at a party, adult or juvenile party, and I'm not just blaming juveniles, adults as well in using these drugs. They're more likely to start using these other drugs because the inhibitions are lowered, they're in a friendly atmosphere, personalities take over, willpower becomes less, and individuals become involved in this drug activity. Alcohol combined with these drugs makes an even more dangerous effect on the individual. Alcohol is going to slow the person down, make them more lethargic, but yet they're going to be taking crack cocaine, they may be taking amphetamines or barbiturates or some of these other drugs or any drug that happens at the party, which is going to have a tremendous impact on their life, their ability to live. Their body is going to betray them, and we may see them in the morgue or at the hospital. Another drug that I want to talk about that I have nothing to show you on today is what we call GHB, which is gamma hydroxide butyrate. Gamma hydroxide butyrate is coming and is in Medina County. We've had reports and I've had calls from our hospitals here locally about the drug, trying to get information on it and how to treat it. And it's very important that everyone know about GHB, Rohypnol, and ketamine. Gamma hydroxide butyrate is a clear liquid. It's usually carried in a very small bottle. It can be mixed with drinking water or with a pop. It's colorless and it's odorless and has a tremendous impact on the central nervous system of an individual that takes this. They can go into convulsions, rapid heart palpitations, and the only way this person can really be treated is for a hospital emergency room to get this person into intensive care and to get them intubated, to keep oxygen in their body because it has to work through their system. The experimentation that we're seeing today in Medina County with these drugs is really scary because we have some individuals, for instance, that have told me in my jurisdiction that they're willing to try anything once, and so they try these things. This is not the old days of the 60s and 70s for experimentation. Some of these drugs you experiment with, they're going to have an impact in your life or take your life. GHB, for instance, will put you in a coma and affect your central nervous system, your ability to breathe, your heart to even operate or pound. Rohypnol. Rohypnol is hitting Medina County. We've had several cases of Rohypnol use. Rohypnol, better known as roofie, is in a disc form. It is an illegal drug, and it's usually smuggled into the country, usually by someone going to Mexico or somewhere outside of the country where it is legal, and brings it back to us. It's used for a twilight or a post-op or a pre-op by doctors. Again, no longer available or legal in the United States. Rohypnol is what we call the date rape drug. Rohypnol will truly erase the memory of an individual so that they have no memory at all. In fact, it's erased. They can't help law enforcement, they can't tell their parents, or if it's a parent that has it, they can't tell their spouse or anyone else what happened to them. And there will usually be a sexual assault that takes place, usually by more than one person, because that's the whole purpose of giving someone Rohypnol. Another drug that I want to just mention briefly is ketamine. Ketamine is usually sold in a ketasette form or something like that. It's an animal tranquilizer. I have an example of ketasette with me. We'll put that up for display. This is, again, used as an animal tranquilizer. There are many ways that this product is prepared for ingestion that I won't go into during my talk today. It is readily available and is being abused. These three drugs have a date rape effect. They will tranquilize a person. Rohypnol is the only one that I know of that will totally erase the memory. The others will help affect an erasure of the memory, or for a person not to want to remember because they will be so relaxed. Once that person is relaxed, many of these drugs are overused to a point to where the person will go into a coma. They become an unwilling participant in a sexual act. These are very important drugs to remember: ketamine, Rohypnol, and GHB. GHB can be manufactured in one's own home, and that's the biggest problem that we're having in Medina County. It's throughout the country, but we want to talk about Medina County today. It is one of the biggest drugs that is abused and is a drug that can be made within the home. And so we have to really think about that. If we know of anyone, if you know of anyone out there that is using GHB, please do something about it. Tell a friend so that they get the information to someone. We need to get this person some help with GHB. GHB, because it is made at home, it's given out to other youths or to other people to try, and they're popping up in the emergency rooms. You can well imagine these drugs used with alcohol or any of the other drugs that we've talked about at some sort of party will have a tremendous impact on the human body and on a person being able to live. The other thing I want to talk about briefly is raves, R-A-V-E, which is a party that is usually held in a woods or in a field or at a friend's home that has a big farm or something like that where a large group will get together. I want to mention raves because when that happens, that's when we have more of a possibility of drug use happening, and where these drugs, GHB, Rohypnol, and ketamine will show up. Now, for the last month or two, we've been receiving some dangerous reports about the use of acid, LSD, PCP, lysergic acid diethylamide. Again, all of these products become more synthesized than in the 60s and 70s. There's more creative ways of using it. It is stronger, it's more potent, it's readily available on the street. It's purchased for anywhere from $3 to $5. I have an example of acid up in my kit here on the far back. This could be in the form of a cartoon. There could be a cartoon on each one of the little squares. Each square is approximately 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch. It could be a little cartoon in each one of those little squares, or it could be part of a cartoon that is torn off of that. That paper is usually going to be perforated. It's usually going to be some sort of an absorbent paper. It's usually found, for instance, in cellophane from a cigarette pack or something like that, or in a piece of foil. We may have a piece of foil that's torn off. You may find that around. Another thing is what's called pyramid acid, and that's where I'm talking about the creativity that's out now. Pyramid acid is also made in a gel form, and it really shapes a pyramid, a little quarter-inch by quarter-inch by quarter-inch high pyramid, and it's made in a mold. And it's lysergic acid diethylamide, or it could be PCP, ephencyclidine mixture. It could be anything, and I think that's the point that we need to hit home with this program today. No one can take for granted that whatever drug they're given by a friend or by an associate or by someone, by purchase or as a gift, can they believe that it is truly the drug that, for instance, they are experimenting with, because it's unadulterated. They can't tell what has happened with this product, who has had it, what strength it is, where it's been, and how it's packaged and shipped by an individual. So that's very, very important to remember. One other thing that we talk about that you can see around the table today are what we call inhalants. We have many examples of that. One of the most abused inhalants probably is Ready Whip. Ready Whip has nitrous oxide inside of it as a propellant. You might say that's letting Pandora out of the box by telling people about that. Many people know that. The people that are abusing it know that. We need for parents to know that. So if you have an empty can of Ready Whip in your refrigerator and you don't know why, or you find Ready Whip under your son or your daughter's bed, or out on your property or out in your garage, it'll give you an idea of what's happening. This nitrous oxide is laughing gas. It's what we get at the dentist office. And there's many ways of getting nitrous oxide. For instance, I bought these creamer cartridges, and these are cartridges that are used to ingest, or excuse me, to put nitrous oxide into a cylinder to make whipping cream. So these products can be in that form. And of course, I would caution you to look for instance, in this cartridge is nitrous oxide, but in this cartridge is CO2 for a Daisy Air rifle. So you want to look for the cartridges as far as paraphernalia, but you'll also be able to tell the difference. Now in Ohio, the law has now changed to where, as far as nitrous oxide, the cylinder will have to be labeled, and that'll happen mid-year in '99, where it'll say, not for sale to minors under 18 years of age. It'll become more like a controlled substance, in that any store that sells nitrous oxide cylinders will have to identify the party that's buying it, their address, phone number, etc., and account for each one of those cylinders, which will be very helpful to us. Now I mentioned the nitrous oxide because nitrous oxide is then ingested in what we call a cracker. A cracker is a pipe device that will hold that cylinder in place. Once that cylinder is put inside the cracker, there is like a nail or a pinhead inside that will pierce the cylinder to release the gas. The cracker allows it to be released in small amounts. Once that's screwed tight, that cylinder is now pierced, and now the gas will come out. What an individual will do then is buy balloons, and the balloons then are put over the top of the cracker. And once the balloon is placed on top, the cracker is then opened, and as they open the cracker, the gas will fill up the balloon. They will pinch off the balloon then after sealing the cracker, and they will inhale this nitrous oxide. This is drug paraphernalia. The cracker is drug paraphernalia and is illegal to have or to even purchase. So all of these were made outside of our community and are illegally obtained and used. So that deals with nitrous oxide. The other things that we want to talk about, for instance, Fix-A-Flat or Scotch Guard. If you have in your home candle scent, and you have a lot of candle scent, for instance, maybe in a youth room, more than probably should be used. Need to be cautious not only of are they just trying to mask a smell of maybe drugs, but also may they have an inhalant problem and they are inhaling the accelerants or the base for these products. These types of things are widely abused because of the butanes and the isopropanes that are used to propel them. Unlike, for instance, in the Ready Whip, where it's nitrous oxide, which is a sweet gas. These are actually a gas product. We can all think of people, for instance, that may like the smell of gasoline or kerosene or something like that. We joke, you know, I give talks all over, and we have this one individual that claims that he can tell by the smell of gas whether it's high test or low test, and maybe even how much it costs. Well, that's an example of someone who's abusing these things on a continual basis. We, for instance, as parents have learned for years, we should always watch for cement, for model airplanes and things like that with our kids. But we don't think about the shoe goos and everything else that contain twice the accelerant or twice the product in here that is inhaled by the individual in an inhalant abuse situation. Sudden sniffing death, SSD, that's what can happen with the inhalant or inhaling of these products. A person can die immediately. There's no experimenting with it. So one would have to be very cautious of that. The other thing to watch for is whiteout and some of the other products that we have on the table, and even magic markers. I mean, this is an example of someone getting used to the smell. The minute I pop this lid, and you folks in the audience can almost remember back when, or probably can almost smell this, it's in our brain. Many people have to go back to the smell and actually get high from it. This product now, unfortunately, is even made by manufacturers and flavors. And by that I mean by scents, which tickle our taste buds as well as our ability to smell. And people will become hooked on this as an inhalant, and it can cause damage. The other thing, unfortunately, that we are seeing is even the manufacturing of products. You know, we have the mini thins and the 357 magnums and things like that. This is really a play on the stimulants of the 60s and 70s and the stimulant shops that we've seen pop up across the county and across America. These are sold at some of our local convenience stores now. So I guess my point is that I'm trying to make is that we are conditioning America to think about drugs. Even when you watch TV today, the giant commercials for Arudis or any of these pills. I, for instance, take Zantac. As a police officer, I've carried a roll of Tums, and I'm sure that Chief Osecki has for years in his pocket. We'd never go without it. Now, as you know, we can take a Zantac or Pepsid or anything like that, and it controls our acid. We become a pill-oriented society, and that's a problem that we have to be careful of today. All of these substances can be abused. Now we're seeing many of these substances even snorted. Again, you know, we offer this today so that you have a better understanding of what the products are and what the paraphernalia is that we are finding around Medina County. So,
Jim, at this time I want to thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I know we rushed you. It's usually a 2.5-hour presentation for you that was into a half an hour. Is there a number you can be reached to have somebody like more information on anything they've seen, or for you to come out as a speaker?
Yes, sir. They can call Medina City Police at 330-725-7777 and ask our chief, and he'll gladly sign us up to speak anywhere to help Medina County.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And in closing, I just wanted to say that, as you can see, we do have some drugs in Medina County that maybe most of our viewers did not realize that we had, and probably are shocked by seeing some of the things around the home that could create problems. But if we can work together, the business community, as well as the police departments, the parents, and the schools, in a cooperative effort, I think that we can help combat drugs in Medina County. With that, thank you for viewing Business Watch.
Thanks for watching B52 Government Access Television. We'd like to hear from you. Contact us on the internet at b52cable@aol.com or give us a call at 330-273-0410.
Goodbye.
Honey, would you get me some ice cream?
Ice cream?
Please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Some things you just can't do without. It happens every night, all across America.